In 1947, a young General Electric engineer had an idea. He felt that things cost too much. The story could have ended here, except for a far-sighted GE purchasing vice president who gave Miles his support. During the next 5 years, Miles put together the world's first system for optimizing cost and function. The system, value analysis, expanded and strengthened as captured the attention of the world. In October 1983, the Society of Japanese Value Engineers invited Miles to visit Japan to present to a Japanese company the Miles Award to recognize excellence in the application of value analysis. On the eve of his 80th birthday, several members and fellows of the Society of American Value Engineers visited with Miles at his home on the eastern shore of Chesapeake Bay to record the story of value analysis. Their motivation: respect for Miles, and a conviction that value analysis is indeed the ultimate methodology for solving problems involving cost and function. What follows are selections from these 3 days of inspiration.
Good morning, folks. I am happy to tell you about the start and the main strength of a new technology that is called value analysis. About every 100 years, 2 or 3 of these strong technologies come forth, technologies of thinking, and it's a delight to tell you. The way we started, I guess I'll start as a farm boy who came to General Electric and went into engineering. I was concerned during some of this period because it seemed that everything cost too much. One day I went into my boss's office and said, "Doesn't anybody care what things cost?" He was a good boss, and he turned around, picked up the phone, called the vice president of purchasing, and quoted me. Vice president says, "Send him over." A month later, I was working for the vice president of purchasing. And there I had a chance to come to grips with what things cost. The country was in desperate straits right then, trying to produce everything and short of material for planes and for guns and for all kinds of equipment. But it was my job to find special materials that were required. We went into tremendous endeavor to get scarce materials right away. It was in the low 1940s, so every factory was sold out of everything. But my job was to absolutely get what was needed. Increase the turbo superchargers for airplanes from 50 to 2,000 a week, and other things likewise. I found that I could not go into the factories and take the specifications I had and find any space. But I did find that if I got functional specifications, if I knew what the product had to do, that I could find somewhere that would make something that would do it. This helped in many, many cases. In one case, even though the market was 2 years oversold on capacitors and resistors, I was given the job of starting next week on deliveries, weekly deliveries of a whole bill of resistors and capacitors. I asked the production manager who agrees with him, and he said, "Harry Ehrlicher, your boss agrees that you should get them." Talked to him, and that's true, and so I did. They were not the same ones on the drawing, but they had the same functions. They went in some very important electronic developments. This type of thing taught me that the most interesting thing, the most valuable thing, was not necessarily the words that somebody had put on a drawing or a specification, but the true meaning of what was needed, of what the use was. Time moved along. I was a manager of purchasing for one of the plants, but I couldn't get off my mind that there was a lot better way to buy what we needed than to buy material specifications. So I wrote Harry Ehrlicher, then purchasing vice president, and said, I'd like to give up my job here as the purchasing manager at this plant and come back and into your staff and have time for research. I believe I can find a very much better way to spend our money and to get what we need. Harry says, come ahead. The last of November 1947, I moved to Schenectady. There was at that time a new man there, William Sredenchek, who had been a sales manager for the company and was a very, very keen and intelligent man. And he was being groomed to be the vice president of purchasing. He came into my office and said, Harry Ehrlicher has told me you're going to be here between assignments for a little while, and he wants to latch you on to me. So I'm your boss. So Bill Sredenchek and I became associated. I asked Bill for an appointment and said, now, we've got a different angle here. We're not going to just buy material, we'll do that too, but we have found that if we can buy functional specifications, buy the function instead of just buy a piece of material, it works out a lot better. He says, what do you mean? So I showed him a number of cases. For example, I showed him that on the fastener for this cold control, this piece of phosphor bronze costs $9,000 a year. What's its function? It's to hold on the cover. Said we can hold that cover on for $3,000 a year. This tubing here costs $50,000 a year. We can buy a tubing that'll do that job, but not to that specification, for $25,000 a year. Bill bought it. And he says, Larry, how are we going to go about it? I said, well, the first thing that we have to do is get backing here. I going to need some help in the budget. And he said, fine, let's go and see Harry Ehrlicher. So he called Harry Ehrlicher, and we went in and saw him. And we showed him these things, showed him a totally different approach, and Harry Ehrlicher bought it. He set up an appointment with the Vice President of Engineering, Harry Winnie, where I could show him what this was. I showed Harry Winnie the functional approach. So Harry Winnie bought it. Harry Winnie said, this is the best method yet found to help engineers locate and remove unnecessary costs from their product. He says, what are you going to call it? I said, I don't know. What should we call it? He said, it's certainly not cost reduction. He says, it's not cost analysis, it's so much more. It's not function analysis, because we have other things we call that. Says, why don't you call it value analysis? Anything has value if it has the proper function and the proper cost. And those are the two things that you pay attention to. Fine. So, of course, I was overjoyed knowing that I had the support of the enormous engineering profession in General Electric through its top leader. Within the next few days, Mr. Shredenchek made an appointment for me with Nick Dushman, the vice president in charge of manufacturing, to whom purchasing at that time reported. I had the 20-minute, Bill and I had a 20-minute appointment. We were over, and it was 2 hours before Dushman would let us away. We showed him examples, we told him how it was done. He listened and he perceived. When we got through, he said, "Larry, I want you to train 1,000 men a year." Now I had it charted. And now I could think in terms of really doing something, and of course the first thing was to get some men, some good people to do it. Bill Shredenchek had said, "Larry, whenever you hire a man, get a better man than yourself. Good people know that and do it." So I went to work on that basis. Meanwhile, the way we had been training people was to have engineers come in from the plants, bring a product, work on the product in our office and under our own supervision. One of these men was a young engineer named Roy Fountain from the Erie Locomotive Department. Well, Roy started out, he was just like we were, didn't know quite what to do, but pretty soon he just changed, tore that thing apart, and he could get the performance for fractions of the cost. His assignment was up, and he went back to Erie. And I had to be careful to not become unpopular because of pirating good men from the operating departments where they had to succeed for General Electric. So I didn't make him any offer. About a month later, Roy sent me a copy of a letter that he had written to someone in the locomotive department suggesting something that was very valid. I easily see it should be done. And the manager who received it knocked it down. Said, I can't remember the words he used, it doesn't matter. It just knocked it down. So I saw right then that Roy was not being used in that area. So I got enough salary offer from Shredenchek so I could go up and call on him and Maxine and make him the offer, and we got Roy Fountain on the team. Roy's first job was to go to work on this training 1,000 people a year. We worked together, putting together the first big seminar in 1952, I believe it was October, where we had about 60 people that came from all kinds of departments and gave them 4 weeks of training and put forth the rudiments of value analysis on it. This is the way it got started.
In the 30 years since that first seminar, value analysis has emerged as the #1 problem-solving process when both cost and function are involved. Such a dramatic expansion could hardly have occurred without a plan which responded to real needs. How did the plan evolve? What need did it fulfill? Miles' chief lieutenant in the critical developmental years between 1952 and 1959 was Roy Fountain.
Roy, after the seminar that you put on, and all of these 60 people went back to their plus or minus 100 divisions, there's still a mighty big job to do. How did you get the value technology spread throughout all of the company?
Well, Larry, I think that in my own mind, there is nothing that sells like results, and the people were getting results. And this includes the people who were trained on the job training in your office. But in addition, we very quickly saw results coming from those people who had the first seminar training. The interesting thing was that shortly after we completed the first seminar, there was a demand for the second seminar, and we decided that we had had one experience, 4 weeks, 160 hours. Perhaps we could be more efficient ourselves, and so the program was cut back to 80 hours. We eventually went to 60 hours and then to 40 hours. And this is the way we were achieving our goal of 1,000 people. Maybe you'd like to tell a little bit of how it spread outside the company?
I think that's an important thing. That was a big bone of contention for me. Actually, as you know, people who don't understand it and already have high management authority are afraid to accept something they don't understand that may upset their chips. And it's absolutely true today and always has been. So many of management really hung back on having too many people know too much about this besides them, and they didn't have time to learn. However, Roy's group was teaching the doer people, so we were working from below, doing good work from below. Well, then came Bill Sredenchek, or he was there all the time, but Bill says, Larry, the benefit to General Electric of value analysis is going to come when their customers will use it and make better products and win more of the orders and have to buy more motors and more switchgear of us. So we've got to take this out to our people. And so Bill set up appointments for us to go out and talk to customer companies. By golly, I've been out to California many times talking to utilities there to help them get turbine orders in Los Angeles. That was one thing. Some of the other management of the company hung back. I remember I got one letter from a vice president that said, we don't like approving these expense accounts for you to go out and talk to somebody out of the company about this. Just keep it low and keep it in the company. The other big thing was the purchasing market. General Electric spent hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and the big saving would come in purchasing if we got our suppliers to using it. Now, the only way to get the suppliers to use it is to take it out of the company. We have to go to the suppliers and show them how to use it. We did, in many cases, send a team of a couple value engineers for a couple of days on the supplier's product that we were using extensively. So it got out of the company very effectively, as Bill Sredenchek initially said it should be done, not just slopped out, by first telling our potential customers to build our orders, and then secondly telling our suppliers. One example I'd like to tell you, it got into the Navy. And the way it got into the Navy was Dr. Glenn Warren, the head of the turbine department, wanted a $20 million order for ship turbines. And it was touch and go. He had a lot of competition. So he came and he says, Larry, this is so good and the Navy needs it so much that I'd like to take value analysis to the Navy as a service to customers and in order to get that $20 million order. Well, fine, so I did, and he got the order. And that is just one step of the way it got out.
Larry, you've explained how the term value analysis came into being. There are a lot of other terms now applied to the field of value, but maybe you'd like to just explain how value engineering came about.
Well, I really would. Admiral Leggett, head of the Bureau of Ships, took a great interest in value analysis and sent some people up to learn it, and then had a seminar there, and Roy went down and helped put it on, and then had another one. And then he called me and he says, Larry, I have a problem. That value analysis is tremendous, and we can benefit the Navy so much, and we're starting to do it, but kind of illegally. We don't have any legal place to hire people to work that. We need value analysts, but we don't have one spot for an analyst in all of our brackets. On the contrary, I can put on hundreds of engineers, a sound engineer, a weight engineer, you name it, and I can put an engineer on. So I am going to have to change the name to value engineering. And at the same time, I'm going to have to do something else you won't like, and that is for the Navy to really get good from value engineering, we're going to have to teach it to your competitors. So I want you to well know now that we're going to take it, and it's going to be value engineering. We're going to teach it to your competition, but we'll get a lot of good from it. Right about that time, the word was getting around in the other installations of the government, and there are a number of places like the Watervliet Arsenal, a dozen of them around through the country, and the word was getting to them. So we also went and put on seminars. I think, wasn't it Ray Spenard at the Waterford Arsenal? Watervliet Arsenal. And they had projects just like we did and became enthusiastic and really did the country a lot of good and helped to spread good technique.
Miles and Fountain are joined by R. Glenn Woodward, a pioneer in value analysis.
Larry, what advice do you have for the loan value practitioner and his boss who wish to initiate or perpetuate an effective value program?
Glenn, you're giving thought to a very important subject because so many people have to start out with one at a time, and it's a very difficult job. The loan practitioner has to make friends. He has to get help. He is only one person with a very important job and a new kit of tools to use, and he needs help to use them. Very often he will pick up help in the accounting department. A finance man is a good supporter. He sits in the meetings when they're talking about the need for more earnings and what's happening, and he can put in a good word for the boss. Very often the friend will come from other than the finance department. In the engineering department, there's usually a variety of people. Some could care less about cost, but some do care about costs in their personal living and in their business living. And he will get acquainted with the proper one or two and get their support. Actually, he will find they will enjoy being active in support. In other areas, of course, you all know we started in purchasing. And so purchasing people more often got the training first. And the purchasing people anyway, if they're properly matched to the job, are interested in getting something for the money. And so a man in the purchasing department can be a lot of help. His help will be in providing specific ideas and solutions from outside vendors who he can invite in, and also in getting management's support and getting support from the top of the company. The main theme here is that he does need help. The question has been raised, are these techniques still on trial? And we certainly ought to answer that once and for all. The world is full of people who have proven these techniques and are using them just as sure as they use Ohm's law. These techniques are true, they're not under test. The testing has been done. The only thing is, there are people who haven't learned the Ohm's law yet. We are on the subject of of implementation and how to achieve it. Let's start out with a fundamental that we have, I think, learned from experience. And that is that getting achievement from the value analysis work is best done by the people who are responsible for the work. If it is an engineering project, the engineer is the man who ought to be there, and he needs to be the man who wants some improvement in cost or quality. And so when he learns how to do it, it fits right into his work to go ahead and do it. It sounds very simple, but it isn't simple, and it hasn't been simple. However, nowadays it's so important to get the results that I believe that more than any other way, that is the way it's being done today. What experience do you folks have on that?
I think my experience is exactly the same. In the beginning, when we had the first program, we put people on projects for which they had no responsibility, because we recognized that creativity for them would be easier on something for which they had no responsibility. Now, the reason we ducked the issue, if you want to call it that, is that at that time on our staff we didn't have anybody who was an expert in creativity. So what we did, recognizing that need, we usually called on managers of the creative engineering program to come and give talks on creativity. But it wasn't quite the same, because when they had finished their talk, they were busy people and they walked out the back door. And that was all the input we ever had in the creative area. After we learned more about it and how to teach it and got some expertise in the creative area, we recognized that it would be easier to overcome the creativity problem and get better implementation if we got on the projects at least one person who was knowledgeable and experienced and had the responsibility for that project. Saying it just a little differently, if a man has a responsibility for a product line and we're going to teach him the techniques, we haven't gained very much unless that man eventually learns to apply the techniques on his own project.
A member of the Miles Schenectady Group went public in 1959. Dusty Folks formed Value Analysis Incorporated and has since trained many thousands in one-week value analysis seminars. Miles reminisces with Folks on a 1983 visit to Chicago.
Here we were with a beautiful set of techniques that every department in the company needed, and we knew they worked, and we had a group of people trained, but still we weren't scratching the surface yet. We had the problem of how do we go about it? How do we get it done? One of the ways we did was to go to the training courses and invite men to come on assignments of from 3 to 6 months in our value analysis department. One man we brought in that way, I'd like to have you all know a little better. And I'm going to introduce you to him pretty soon. He was a manufacturing training program man, and we got him, and he just took to it. We gave him an assignment, among others, to find throughout the whole country specialty suppliers of processes and materials, things that would answer problems on products. And that fella, during his assignment, built a whole file of 1,000 different companies that did this, that became very, very useful in our seminars. I think that the best thing to do now, we depended on him so much and he did so much, would be to kind of throw the ball over to him and let so I'm going to introduce Dusty, folks. Dusty, tell us your story a little as you remember it back into those times, and then bring it on a little further ahead.
Well, I'm going to tell you something for the first time, Larry. Actually, it was Roy Fountain that brought me into your office because you were down at Crutonville on the Long Management Training Program. And when you assigned me the responsibility of supplementing what you'd been doing with the special materials and products and manufacturing processes, it really opened my eyes to the tremendous capabilities that the specialty suppliers could bring not only to the value engineering activity but to any activity as well. And by having the responsibility and, well, your protectionism of letting me do this and feed information to the rest of the company was very interesting. Besides, you thrust me pretty deeply into the training very quickly, and so that's the thing that I really appreciate in the early days, is your confidence in the training capabilities. A lot of things have happened since that time, as you well know.
Well, you put confidence where you get results. You know, an interesting thing, after we had run, we trained our 1,000 a year for quite a number of years, and then I sent out a questionnaire to them, and I asked just one simple question on a card: increase in my general competence because of value analysis methodology training in percent. And I said, now don't sign it, just put it there. I want to have an idea. And they also checked whether they were engineers or manufacturing people, and what training they had and what department they worked in, whether it was in engineering or manufacturing or what. Well, surprisingly, the average from a few thousand that came in was 22%. And I developed, by studying them, some definite concepts. One is that this is definitely a methodology that superior people can use to great advantage, but people of the lesser competence, and we have to talk about them that way because they are that way, don't get that much good from it. The result is, studying this, I formulated the idea that for the lower 25% of competence in all areas, forget it. From the next 25 to 50%, you will expect them to improve their abilities, their skills, 50%. They will achieve 50% more results. And between and in the top half of the competence of people, it is just fantastic. They will go from 100 to 500% more competence as a result of the techniques. And these reports that I have show it.
The past 30 years have seen value analysis grow from a faltering in-house GE process to a proven worldwide problem-solving system. The torch has been passed. New generations are practicing and refining the process. One of the new value specialists is the daughter of Daniel Barlow, one of Miles' original group at Schenectady. Tricia Barlow discusses her profession with Miles.
Patricia, why don't you give us some of your thoughts?
Oh, well, I was just wondering, Larry, in getting into the field as I am now, if if there was a scale of 1 to 10, and 1 was the beginning of value, the concept of value analysis, and 10 would be what you would like it to ultimately be, the final, when the development process is over. On that scale of 1 to 10, where would you put value analysis at this point?
Patricia, we and the world are just starting at the present time, and I'd put it at 2.5.
2.5. Seems like we have a lot to do to develop up to 10. And what do you feel that, what would 10 be? Where do you see it finally reaching, the ultimate end of value analysis?
The ultimate will never be achieved because people are very, very different. And value methodology is a method to help people achieve whatever they want to achieve. It is basically a method of growing people.
Growing people. And what do you mean by growing people? Can you tell me more?
I mean, if people have some kind of activity that they want to achieve. If it's a musician, they want to be a top musician. If it's an engineer, they want to design good equipment. If it is a homemaker, they want to bake a good pie. And the methods of value analysis help them to do whatever they want to do because it helps them to sort out what is important and do a good job on what's important. So people, being what they are, many of them don't want to put the energy into doing a thing really well. They just do it so that it suits them and they get on to the next job.
If you were, since you said that on the scale of 1 to 10 that value analysis is about 2.5, some of us in the field of value analysis seem impatient in feeling that possibly value analysis has not been accepted by the business population or people in general. And how do you think that possibly we, and specifically myself because I'm new in the field, how do you think that we could work to change that so that value analysis is accepted?
It's good that you feel that way because it is very, very true. The methodology will allow everyone to achieve more with whatever resources they are using. And the more they learn the step-by-step thinking of deciding exactly what they want to do, what's the purpose or the function of each thought they have, of each movement they have, of each expense they have, the better decisions they can make.
Throughout the history of value analysis, its most intense support has come from presidents and CEOs. On a visit to Chicago, Miles met with such a leader of industry.
I am very pleased to be meeting with John Deininger, president of Signode Industries, a leading worldwide producer of strapping systems for packaging and materials handling. John, it's going to be very interesting to hear some of the things you have done with the value methodology.
Well, Larry, I appreciate this opportunity to share with you some of the benefits that we've gained from value analysis. It's had a significant impact on our company. I'd like to share with you a brochure that we've prepared for our employees, which describes what value analysis is and what it does for Signode. Larry, we at Signode view value analysis as a disciplined procedure to enable us to reduce product costs and improve product benefits to ensure or improve the customer added or functional value. By functional value, we simply mean that we're providing customers more of what they want or expect from a product and less of what they don't need.
John, most companies go into a program of improvement this way, of this kind, only when they're having a problem. and the problems are usually competition or profits or both. And I'm assuming that you must have had some belief that either now or later you would have such problems if you didn't get into this program. You might tell us how you moved in and what you did.
Well, Larry, frankly, we've heard of the terms value analysis and value engineering for some time, and a number of our people had been exposed to it, but only in a superficial way. I think it was after we had the benefit of a formal program and learned precisely the discipline, procedure, and the mechanics of it that we began to find out what its true impact was. And
John, I understand that perfectly. We found out early on that knowing a little about it was a vaccination, and it made it harder to teach people more. But you got over that hump, apparently.
Correct. We were willing to make a commitment to selecting our first teams and putting them through the various formal studies, and we were just amazed by the outcome. Larry, as you know, we're extremely delighted with the accomplishments that we've achieved with adopting value analysis. It's enabled us to provide customers with greater functional value and improve productivity on a number of fronts in our operation. And I'm extremely pleased to personally thank you for all the good efforts you've contributed, and I think that long last, your dedication of sharing this concept which you developed many years ago is finally getting its full recognition.
Well, thank you very, very much.
I think it's one of the most powerful productivity tools that we now have available to us.
Great. It's people like you putting it to work is what really counts. And I say to all of you people in the industrial and professional world, here is a set of professional techniques that will really help solve problems of any kind. But you must learn them, you must teach them, you must have others teach them and use them yourselves.
On October 23, 1985, the government of Japan, through the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, awarded the late Lawrence Delos Miles, in behalf of His Majesty the Emperor, the Medal Third Class of the Order of the Sacred Treasure. This medal is awarded to any citizen whose years of contribution in their respective professional fields is recognized. The medal has been awarded to only 3 other Americans, Lillian Gilbreth, Peter Drucker, and W. Edward Deming. The legacy of Mr. Miles's technical accomplishments deserves such recognition.